So fun fact about Tori, she may be the worst chef that I've ever met. She never cooks at home. I think you've had, 2 home-cooked meals?
In 2019.
In your new place?
Yeah.
Love that for you. Let's roll the intro. We even tried baking together once, and that was a disaster. Just your presence, I think, ruined the...
My presence in the kitchen is never welcome.
What was it? Like blueberries, raspberry, like a whole,
It just didn't work out.
It ruined it all.
Out. Well, welcome back to Poddy Talk,
the podcast where we shit talk ourselves. I'm Jack. You messed up the intro. I'm Jack.
I'm Tor. And this is my episode. I was getting too excited.
This is Tori's episode. We're going to dive into the childhood,
We're
the
dedicating
stories,
it to me, and
the embarrassing moments. We're roasting you and putting you on blast.
Yeah.
All in the honor of the 8th episode.
I'm so excited because I just deserve this moment.
I'm also just excited for you to take the reins of this episode because I am so tired today.
I'm in great spirits, so get ready, everyone, because I am leader of the pack today. So
I think the best way to start this off, though, I've been seeing a lot of comments, people asking about your whole Life with Boys experience, which is the TV show that you were on.
Yeah.
And I think we should kind of start off with that. Start off with the beginning of your career and kind of how that process happened. Now that was me.
Oh, I was going to say, is that my phone?
That was me today.
Jaclyn always gets mad when I leave my phone on.
I'm so bad.
So
tell me, how did it happen? What was the audition process like?
So ridiculous. The audition process for Life with Boys was, in total, I think about 18 auditions.
18?
Which is, in the film and television world, unheard of. Like, normally, you'll go in and you'll do maybe 2 normal auditions for the casting director, then you might get called in for a director's session, then you might have to do chemistry reads, which chemistry reads is basically you going in with the other actors that are auditioning for their roles and seeing kind of how you mesh together. Because of course, that chemistry was going to be really important for our show because I had a twin, so we had to make sure that like my twin and I could actually pass as twins, and that the relationship with all the brothers felt real, that the relationship with my father felt real, and that the relationship obviously with my best friend, who was played by Madison Pettis, felt real.
Right.
So the chemistry reads ended up becoming a big part of those auditions. But let's move back. I'll go back to the very beginning. So essentially, I got the breakdown, and a breakdown is usually information about your characters and a little bit of script. So maybe 2 scenes we got at the beginning. And I auditioned for Allie. So I auditioned for the best friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my initial audition was for the best friend.
Wait, so set the scene. What year are we in? This is like a
this
Nickelodeon
was like
show.
2011.
And this is
maybe even 2010 is when the auditions were happening, because I don't think we started shooting until February of 2011. So let's say like 2010.
And the stakes are pretty high, right? We've got was it the producers of Hannah Montana?
Yeah, so producers and writers of creator of That's So Raven, Michael Porras, shout out to him. He's like insanely talented and amazing. And so he created then Hannah Montana after That's So Raven, and then obviously was a producer on that show, along with the writers of that show that came up from the US to shoot this show in Toronto.
So stakes were high.
Stakes were high, but I didn't feel like they were high. Like, keep in mind, I was like 14 at the time, and I had already been going on a ton of auditions at that point. I had already kind of shot some smaller roles in movies of the week and done my commercials. So I was a little less stressed about it. I was like, oh, it's just another TV audition. Okay. I did feel like I had a connection to the script and I was really into the role. But I also remember thinking at that point, I would do auditions and I would try to forget about it. Because that's what I was always taught by my parents. Do it, get over it. You can't dwell on it. That's the industry. You're not going to book every role.
Right.
So I went into it being confident for sure. I thought I had a good chance, because also Allie, the character, was kind of this prissy, rich girl who was kind of funny, and her comedy was very much in the way that she was kind of this spoiled brat.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is so fun. I went into the episode super glam. I curled my hair. I think I put a little bit of makeup on. I was wearing, I remember, my mom's red blazer. Ooh. Because I thought I was really cool. And so I remember the audition going really well, and I felt the first audition went really well, and I didn't hear anything for a long time, and I think anyone who was an actor in Toronto at this point knew that they were casting this show because even you joked that you had auditioned for the role.
I, for some reason, remember it being, like, in Jigsaw.
It was in Jigsaw. It was.
Yeah.
So, it, like, that casting agency has, like, or used to have what looked like a subway. Like, and you would, like, sit in the waiting room that was, like, a subway, and it was so funny. But anyways, so then I think it was, like, a while later that I got a call back, but the call back was for me to read not only for Allie, but also for Tess, who was, like, the lead girl. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I had to prepare 2 sets of sides because now I was reading for the best friend and for Tess. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't know I'd get to read for the lead. So I knew I was, like, excited about that at the time. But I also did really like Allie's role. So I wasn't impartial to one. Right. So then I go and I read for Allie again and I read for Tess again. And then I can tell they're really liking me as Tess. Like, they were like, okay, can we, like, strip off the makeup? Like, we want her to be more tomboy because at the time,
so
Tess's character.
Take off your makeup?
Yeah, like, Tess's character was much more, I mean, in the show, she ended up becoming branded as more of this kind of eclectic, almost like hippie style. But in the auditions, they were thinking, no, this girl is a wrestler. Like, she is like hardcore tomboy, like no makeup. Okay. So I was like, oh, I wanted to be like Allie. Like, I wanted to like wear the makeup. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, well, they see me more as a tomboy. So whatever. So
you leave the audition.
So I leave the audition. I went back in for Tess, and so I could tell they were starting to like me as Tess more than Allie. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I'll lean towards that. I'm like so happy about that. So then more time goes by, and I get a call back, but this time it's for a chemistry read. So that is when obviously the rest of the cast comes in, and I was going to see like who was auditioning for my brothers, who was auditioning for my best friend, because at that point you're not aware of who's really being cast with you, so you don't know. I remember like going to Aritzia and like buying a new pair of like jeans and like this shirt that had like a car on it because I thought it was like tomboy. Like it wasn't, but I was like, I need to look tomboy, like whatever. Yeah. So I go and I show up to the chemistry read, and I'm sitting outside. I like meet the guy who's playing my dad and my brothers, and we all are like chatting and like hitting it off. The relationship with my father was really important to them, so we did a lot of chemistry reads together. And then I see this woman who's like sitting there, and it was Michelle, who's Madison's mom, and still a great friend of mine to this day. But anyways, so Michelle is sitting there, and at this point, like this is coming off of Madison being on Corey in the House and in the game plan, but I didn't see her because she was in the room. So I'm not like putting 2 and 2 together because I'm just chatting with her mom, not with Madison. So my parents are chatting with Michelle, and they're like talking it out, and they're like, oh, what has Madison been in? And Michelle's like, oh, we're actually out from LA. Like, they flew us out for the chemistry read. And so we're like, oh, this is serious. Like, she's already got the role. Like, they like love her. Like, she's like the LA girl. And I said, I was like, oh, what has your daughter been in? Like, because I didn't know that it was her, that it was Madison. And she said, oh, well, she was in Corey in the House. And I was like, oh my
America's
God,
Angel.
Yeah, literally. Like, I start fangirling because I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. So hilariously, the story ended up being that when I got called in to go and meet Madison in the room with the casting director, writers, producers, everyone, I went in, and this is what I did. I said, oh, you're Madison Pettis! And I just gave her a hug, like as if I'm a fangirl in my own audition room. Like, don't ever do that.
Wait, that's hilarious.
But I will say, like, they were all, like, kind of laughing and, like, gracious about it because they knew that I was young and she was young, and it was just cool that I got to meet this, like, actor that I watched on TV all the time on Disney. And, of course, Madison's been a pro since the beginning. She was so, like, nice about it and so chill. But ironically enough, whatever, that audition went really well, and when Madison and I were out in the waiting room, we took this strip of film. Like, for some reason, we had this, like, Polaroid camera. God knows why. Yeah. I guess, like, Madison was kind of into it at the time and had one. So we took a photo together, which ended up still being, like, the first photo of our, like, long-lasting friendship. So it's kind of cute in that way, and we definitely hit it off as friends really fast, not only, like, in, like, the chemistry reads as actors, but, like, we were, like, really comfortable together very quickly. So whatever, guys, this story goes on and on. There were so many auditions.
I think people will love to hear this. Like, I'm even fascinated. I didn't know all the ins and outs.
Like, there were so many auditions. Then finally, it got to a point where my agent was like, okay, this is crazy. Like, if you're gonna cast her. If you're not, don't. Because, like, they also felt like I was getting kind of, like, dragged through the mud a little bit because they're like, this is a 14-year-old girl. Like, like, she's put in all the work. Like, if you're gonna cast her. Right. And my agent's like, I don't think you should go to another audition. Like, they've seen enough. If they want to cast you, they'll cast you. And then I was on the back end of the phone call being like, no, I'm fine. Like, I was like, honestly, like, I would tell you guys, I would tell my parents, I would tell my agent, like, I said, guys, I will tell you if I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I'm like, I'm not. I'm actually having a lot of fun. And my dad was always the one maintaining, if you're not having fun, we're not doing it anymore. But if you are having fun, then that's the process, and you have to enjoy the process. So I was enjoying the process. So I said, don't worry, like, I'll tell you, like, if I start to get overwhelmed. So whatever, my agent's like, okay, your prerogative, like, I'll trust you, I'll do what you do. So I think I went to a couple more callbacks, a couple more, like, sessions with the director, kind of walking through script, things like this. But at this point, I'm still not cast. Like, I'm just, like, going through the motions.
And are we talking, like, this is over months now, or is this just weeks?
Like, it was, I guess, from beginning to end over a period of maybe 6 months, like, from first audition, because that was kind of spread out. Like, let's say the first one was in September. I can't remember the exact timeline, but then again, we didn't start filming until February of the new year.
Wow. Okay.
So it was definitely spread out. But I think I knew before Christmas that I was cast. I think, like, I found out probably in, like, a December timeline. But anyways, then I get a call, and the producers say, we'd like to have a dinner with Tori and her parents. We'd like to take Tori and her parents out for dinner along with her siblings. We want to meet her whole family. And so...
What do you think the reasoning was?
Well, they were honest about it. They're like, we're coming off the head of a Hannah Montana situation where we want to make sure that, like, the people we're working day in and day out with are coming in with a good head on their shoulders. Like, they didn't want, like, they were so lucky with Emily and with Miley being, you know, as professional and as you know, hardworking as they were.
Right.
And I think understanding that, and even Raven, like, we're talking, like, real professionals, like, amazing standard of comedy actors, like, at that time, or sitcom actors at that time. And I think for them, they were like, this is a big investment in our talent. Like, we need to make sure that, you know, her parents aren't crazy, that her siblings are normal, that she has grown up
that you're as normal go off the rails
as possible, that I'm gonna be professional and get the job done, because of course you don't know what someone's gonna be like until you're actually working with them. So we go out to the keg. I remember this because I love the keg.
This is your place. Did you get to pick?
I didn't pick the... Oh, maybe I did. Maybe they did let me pick, and I think I picked the keg. It still continues to be one of my favorite restaurants. So we go out for dinner, and again, like, they were so gracious and just genuinely wanted to get to know me, get to know my family, and I think they could obviously tell that we were, like, super, like, funny and normal people and all of that. And it was actually after that I got cast. So that was kind of, I guess, one of the big defining features. They had at that point seen me act a bunch, and I did all the chemistry reads.
And your family didn't ruin it for you then?
No, my family held it together for sure. And I actually remember the phone call from my agent. So it was like, I was coming home from school, and I was, like, right in my neighborhood, and he called, and he's like, yep, you got the role. And I was really happy. Like, I don't even think I cried. I think by that point I felt I had deserved it. I worked really hard. I was like, you know what? Like, amazing. I'm so happy. Like, this is, like, the best news for any actor. But I wasn't overwhelmed. I think I was, like, really ready to take on the role. And I felt at that point that I was her, because I was like, you know what? Like, I've put in the work. I've, like, cultivated the relationships with the other actors. I felt like I was really ready. And it was interesting because the first season, we did a lot of, like, prep into the first season, which is a luxury. Like, on, as you would know, like, a lot of TV shows, you're just gonna, like, hop in and do it. Yeah. I want to say we had, like, 4 weeks of, like, script readings and, like, prep time. Yeah. Like, a good amount of time, like, where we were just with our acting coach, like, walking through scenes, and, like, you know, while the set was still being built, like, we were just, like, at the CBC, which is in Toronto, and I was sharing a dressing room with Don Cherry, which is a fun tidbit. Really? Yeah.
That's funny.
If you're Canadian, you'll know who Don Cherry is if you watch hockey night in Canada. But anyway, so that was kind of the process in getting cast. And then we shot the first season, I guess, over, like, a 4 to 6 month period. And you kind of get thrown into the wolves, right? Like, you grow up really fast. I don't know if this was you and I chatting the other day. Oh, no, it wasn't. I was chatting with someone else about this, but how, like, you can't really take a sick day when you're an actor, especially the lead of a TV show.
Oh, that cost them $500,000.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, you're employing, you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders, I think, to make sure you're getting the job done and getting the job done in time. And you just learn all these funny things. Like, so going like 10-1, like to go to the bathroom, like if I, like as the lead of the show, had to go to the bathroom, it was like the biggest of deals.
Tori's on a 10-1.
Tori's on a 10-1. Everyone on set knows that you're going pee.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And actually, I mean, it's been so many years that I think I can share this story, but I think we were in the second season by this point, but when you're on set, you have like lav mics that are like attached under your clothing. And so you have a pack on you that's like the battery pack for the mic. So the battery pack for the mic almost always goes around this like thing around your stomach that like holds it together. That's like pretty tight on you just so that it doesn't
almost like
move.
a strapless bra, but without the bra.
Exactly. It's like just like this tight situation so the mic goes in it. But for one of these outfits, for some reason, I guess I didn't want it, or like it was like gonna show through the shirt, or I can't remember the scenario. So for that, we just tucked it into the back of my jeans. So I go to the bathroom and I can hear people being like, Tori's 10-1, Tori's 10-1. The mic fell in the toilet. Like,
wait,
I went to
really?
go pee and I was like running and I was like, you know, like trying to be fast and like all of these things. And and these are like, I can only imagine
expensive.
like a $500 mic. And it went plop into the toilet and I thought, fuck.
I'm getting fired.
I was like, oh my God. And like, yeah, I'm like 15 or 16 at the time. So like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't possibly go to like Steve, the sound guy, and like tell him that I dropped this in the toilet. Like, I'm so embarrassed. So I just tucked it back in. And then when I got back on set, they're like, Tori,
wait, the actual pack or the actual mic?
The pack. The battery
big boy.
pack. Yes. Went into the toilet. So of course, when I get back on set, we like start the scene and Steve, the sound guy's like, we've lost sound on Tori. We've lost sound on Tori. And I'm like, nah. He was like really gracious. I'm sure
Did you
he
tell
knew.
him?
I'm sure he knew that it was water damage and that it went in. I'm sure it's happened a
but
million
you
times.
never addressed it. You're like, oh, that's weird. What?
I was also young, right? So I felt like he didn't want to put me on blast and be like, and you know, he was like, God bless him. He was like so nice about it. I never owned up to it or anything, but I don't even know if I told my parents. I think I just played it off like it stopped working. Like I was, which is really hilarious.
Wait,
but,
that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So this is when you're in grade, are you in grade 9 or 10?
Well, so this was by
point?
the second season when that embarrassing story
Okay.
happened. But yes, so when I was shooting the first season, I was in grade 9 of high school and I left, like I said, beginning of second semester. So I had made like a good amount of friends, some people that I'd already known going into high school. I felt I had a pretty solid friend group, but it was really funny being gone for like the whole second semester of school because you really, especially in high school years, miss a lot when you're gone. You know, like friendships are broken, friendships begin, boyfriends, like all of these hilarious things. So I did feel a little disconnected once I got back in grade 10. And what was funny is that the hiatus, which is also a little unheard of in the television world, ended up being really long when we were getting picked up for our second season. So I ended up in school all of grade 10.
Oh,
which
really?
was so crazy. Yeah, so which was amazing. Grade 10 actually in high school years, like not in obviously considering my life with boys time, but in high school years was my absolute favorite year because it was like, I don't know, I got
to experience
Yeah, I got
it.
to experience it, and like it was kind of nice that I got to skip over grade 9. So it was like this like happy medium, and I was in the theater program, so I felt lucky that I was getting to do both. Like I got to do the film in grade 9, and then I got to do the theater in grade 10, and then I went back and shot Live with Boys in grade 11. So it was kind of this like back and forth game all through high school.
How did you find school when you were working on set? Do you want to explain to people how that works? It's not
Sure.
like you miss out on school.
Yeah, so
you have to learn still, unfortunately.
Andrea Eisen, who was my on-set tutor, continues to be like a very good friend of mine, and she is just a riot. So the funny story of it all is that Andrea was the student teacher for Lindsay Lohan on Mean Girls.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so this
That's
is
amazing.
the tea, guys. So when I met Andrea, like I knew right away that we were kindred spirits because she was Lindsay's teacher and just like hilarious and iconic. And I mean this in the best way, but it's like we just got up to so much shenanigans in the schoolroom. Like it was like so funny. But basically how it works is you do about 4 hours of school a day? I want to say it's 4 hours, but what happens is you can bank time. So you basically end up, like some days you'll come in and just do like all school days. Like you'll bank like 8 hours of school and then you'll do like only 30 minutes or an hour of school one day. So you're really like spread out, but it's basically a one-on-one tutor and you work on every single course together. So whether that's math or English or science, and I was lucky that I went to an art school, so they were really quite understanding. And my school is like the main theater school into all of the Degrassi people that were ever on Degrassi. I don't know what it was, but like Nina Dobrev and like I can go on and on. Like so many people that went to my high school ended up on television.
So they understood.
So there was definitely an understanding from the guidance counselors, which was great, because I think if you're at like a private school or a school that maybe doesn't really understand that world, it can be a little harder to convince them, which is why some people end up being homeschooled, because the schools won't really like support that endeavor. Like, it makes sense. You're literally gone for 6 months. You can't just be like, peace. Like, so they were really understanding. But basically what happens is you would just I would fax all my assignments, whether that was exams, like quizzes, tests, whatever it was, essays, email and or scan to all of my different professors and teachers at my school. And then they would grade it, and I would just still be under, like, the Toronto District School Board, like, thing, which is why I was able to graduate high school, which is why I was able to go on to university. So it was nice that it was all kind of being managed throughout the whole experience. But, yeah, school on set is, like, very hilarious. It's really funny. Because, like, you have to imagine, like, you have to be very self-motivated.
Oh, for
I always used to
sure.
joke because Madison, like, would totally outshine me in the tutor room. Like, and again, like, U.S. schools at that time or continue to kind of be a little more intense in, like, grade 9, grade 10. I think the curriculums are a little more demanding. So I remember, like, Madison just being swamped with schoolwork. Like, she'd have to, like, stay late and, like, do all these things. And I was like, peace.
I'm out.
I was like, I'm done.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's funny, too, because, you know, I'm obviously such a nerd and, like, a very good student.
Yeah.
But I also think maybe some of that didn't come along until later because, again, I'm doing, like, 10 pages a day of memorization.
Well, you're also doing a full work day.
Yeah, like, this is the funny part. It's like, you're kind of managing a lot at that point.
And you're 14.
Yeah, like, you're 14, right? So you're like, what am I doing? But, yeah, so that's kind of, like, the gist of it.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about, like, the guest stars on the show, because I know you've told to me off camera before the crazy experience of meeting Emily Osment, because you were such a huge fan of, like, Hannah Montana growing up.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, like, all the guest stars, how that played out, and, like, what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I kept always joking to the producers saying, when are you going to bring Miley on? Because obviously they spent years and years and years working with her. That was, like, just at the time, I think, when her, like, rebrand was happening. She was really busy. She had, like, an album release. Like, she was, like...
Was it when, like, the photo came out when she was wearing the towel and, like...
This was, like, right after Can't Be Tamed album, like, after that situation. So she was, like, in the heat of her career.
Getting a lot of, I guess, negative attention from the media, and the media was giving her a hard time.
Right. So, and it just worked out that Emily was really good friends with one of the producers, Emily Osment. So she was so amazing and came on to do a guest star episode on one of the season 1 episodes. And, you know, it's really cool, I would say, to be able to work with an actor that not only, like, I really looked up to her comedically. I think being on a sitcom, it's a little, like, underrated how hard it is, because it's a lot more dialogue and everything is so fast-paced that you're always kind of working at double speed, whereas, like, on a drama or even a film set, you're doing, like, 1 page a day, not 10.
Exactly. You're
like,
turning
sitcoms
over.
are crazy work. Like, that's why I've always loved, like, Friends and shows like that. You just don't even realize how much dialogue they're memorizing in a day. But anyways, Emily was phenomenal on Hannah Montana and always very funny and great. So it was really cool getting to work with her. She was older, I guess, at that point, because I was 14. I guess she would have been, like, 20?
Yeah.
Maybe even a little older.
And she played Lily on Hannah Montana.
Yeah,
like
she
the
played
best
Lily.
friend.
Yeah, she played Lily on Hannah Montana. But yeah, she was so gracious and so kind and was totally willing to, like, you know, answer any questions I had. Like, I would always ask for, like, funny Miley stories, because I think everyone knew how much I, like, looked up to her and how much of an influence she had on me.
Did you get any of those stories?
So funny, yeah. So one of them was, I don't know if people will remember this, but there was an episode of Hannah Montana where there was a tarantula, like the spider, like a very, like... I remember the episode, but anyways.
No, I feel like I've seen all the episodes. I can't picture it, though.
But there was a spider, and apparently Miley was just, like, in love with the spider. Like, she was just like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, she was just, like so chill about it. Like, the producers were, like, freaking out, and she was like, oh, no, like, I love it. Like literally so chill. And I was like, damn, like, Miley is a queen. But yeah, we also got to work with so many animals, which was random. Like, we had a dog, a part of our family, like, in the show. There was always a dog on set, which was really cool. There was, like, a turtle episode where I was, like, hanging out the turtle. Like,
isn't it always fascinating how well trained these animals are? Like, they're
insane.
actor dogs.
No,
like,
they're like
on command.
I remember her name.
Good.
Her name was Angel. That was the name of the dog, and she was just so lovely and so warm. And her trainer was actually and owner was just amazing. Like, she would like do one thing and Angel would like sit down, then they would like record. Like, she was really, really good.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Actor dogs are totally a thing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so what else? Any other crazy stories from that experience? Or like, what was it like when the episodes actually started to come out and you were in school at the time, or were you still not on set?
Yeah, I was in school.
Okay.
It was hilarious. So I don't even know if it would still have the same impact, but back then, this was like like insane social media. So a lot of the media budget was going into more traditional like areas. Mm-hmm. So my face was on the side of like every bus, like every
really?
TTC in Toronto. So I remember like
crazy.
that kind of being the catapult of feeling a little like I was getting treated a little different at school,
right.
Like just because everyone's like, oh my god, did you see like Tori's faces on the bus, or like whatever it was,
or you're getting on the bus with your face on it.
Oh, that did happen. I did take a TTC home from school with my face on the bus, and I was like, this feels wrong. But I remember that being kind of funny. I was lucky that I had some pretty solid. I always had really solid friends, and they knew who I was, and they knew my heart, and they knew that like it was what it was, and that wasn't really going to go to my head.
Sure. And I think you were in an art school, like you said, so it was less of
it was less weird. It's funny, like the people that I went to middle school with who were not in the art school, like when I left and went to a different school, those people were more into it. Like, not more into it, but more like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Right. Whereas I feel like, if you're in the art world or the entertainment world, you're a little more ready to understand that's a part of the scenario.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just hilarious. Like, I'm trying to think, like, there were so many funny stories. Like, I, like, fell over so many couches. I can't believe I didn't break anything on my time there. I did have to go to the hospital once.
Wait, couches on set? Or
yeah. Like, on set, like, I, like, flipped over a couch. Like, there was one time we had a rock climbing episode, and, like, it went horribly wrong, and, like, the trainer, like, released my my harness, and I like literally had a panic attack because he didn't realize I was like kind of afraid of heights and was like trying to be nice. No. And like I ended up having a panic attack on set the day that we were, because that was on the rehearsal day.
Midair?
Yeah, so the way it happens is you have a rehearsal day, and then Disney shows is crazy. Like, if you'll have like 2 rehearsal days and like 5 days to shoot an episode. That is luxurious. Like, that is just not what happened for us. Like, especially in Canada, the way it was set up, like we would do 1 rehearsal day and then shoot an episode in 2 days. If we were lucky, we would get to shoot an episode in 3 days, which was so nice because then you'd get a little less dialogue each day. So on one of the rehearsal days, you basically do a run through of the entire script for the writers, producers, and for the network. So the network, like YTV or whoever it was at the time, they would be there to basically sign off on the script and say, yep, ready for this to be shot. Right. Make sure everything is like copacetic in the script so that everyone's happy with where it's at. So on this rehearsal day, that's when the guy like released my harness when we were practicing for this rock climbing episode. And then on the day when we were shooting, I was like totally triggered, and I like fully, it's probably one of the only moments in my life where I was like, I could not breathe. I was so anxious. Yeah. And that's something I realized in retrospect that I didn't realize I was tackling with a little bit of anxiety while all of this was happening. Because I think you're really, when you're young, you don't know that energy is anxiety. Like, I wasn't able to place it.
I think it was also probably so fast paced that you're just forced to kind of like push along and move along and not address.
You're not really addressing anything. You're just kind of going through the motions. We're starting on set at 7 a.m. each day. Like, I'm getting up at 6 every day. I finish at 7 p.m. every night. Like, you're not really like living within, like, you're not really living a normal life.
Yeah, it's definitely an extraordinary
situation.
Extraordinary.
Is
that both correct to say that?
Yeah.
Very extraordinary, for sure.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that was just like that was maybe one of the only bad experiences was that man.
So wait, you were dangling in the air and he just didn't like bring you down?
When you have slack and you're supposed to almost like use your feet to like push off the wall and bring yourself down slowly, rappel down slowly. Instead, he released it and left me like, a foot above the ground.
So you just dropped?
Yes. But he thought he was like being funny, and I was obviously afraid of heights, which he didn't realize. So anyways, it was not good. And
he never came back to help.
Seriously. But I mean, that's funny because beyond that, like, it's crazy how well managed young actors are, just making sure that, all the rules are being followed. We had to have guardians on set, which is also something people probably don't know about, but that basically means that if you're under the age of 16, you always have to have someone accompanying you on set that is either a parent and or babysitter, guardian, basically.
I don't think a lot of people realize what a big, like, commitment it is also for the family, because they need to take time off work or, like, accompany you on set, and it's such a huge family effort.
I was lucky because my dad was self-employed. He spent day in and day out on set with me.
Oh, was he normally the one that would bring you in?
Yeah, my dad and I probably spent, although my mom too, but my dad more, just because he had the luxury of being a little bit more flexible. But one of the brothers on the show, his parents worked full time, so he had to basically hire someone to be his guardian. Yeah, because we were all underage.
Yeah.
So it is a really big commitment. I think people forget that with young actors. So I remember the day I turned 16, it was like the best thing ever. Like, Tori doesn't have to be on set with a guardian anymore.
You can work more hours, can't you? And do more
You can work
overtime?
more hours. Yeah. It's like a whole thing. So, yeah, they were thrilled, obviously.
Yeah.
But
that's a funny story.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. I mean, there was obviously so much that happened in and out and in between it all, but that's kind of the gist.
I think when it actually released, I remember you telling me this, it comes full circle, and Miley actually tweeted out your show or like shouted you out or something?
Yeah, she did, which was really, really cool. So to this day, I've never actually met her, which I think is like so crazy, because I really have had the luxury of meeting people throughout my career, and she's someone whom I've always loved, but it just has never worked out. But she was so nice and tweeted out that our show was airing on Teen Nick at the time in the US, and was just... Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Did you die at the moment?
Oh, I was like I think I took 100 screenshots just to make sure I could forever remember it. Like, I just thought it was the coolest thing. But yeah, it was really awesome.
That's amazing. That was honestly such a good story and so interesting.
Oh, I'm glad.
So 18 auditions later, we finally have have
Tess Foster. Yep.
So definitely would be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on how you discovered Tori. Was it through the show? Are you following her now just through Instagram?
Yeah.
It's always fascinating to hear, like, what was the
trigger
moment. Yeah, exactly.
No, totally.
Okay, I know you were talking a little bit about Emily and that experience, loving her on Hannah Montana and being such a huge fan of Miley. What other experiences, whether it be through the show or just through the industry, did you meet anyone and, like, fangirl out or, like, have any cool experiences? Like, walk me through all that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think first and foremost, obviously she's my friend, but I would have to shout out Madison in that she continues to be like one of the most gracious, famous people ever. Like, whenever we're out and about, or like whether it's in LA at a mall or at a festival or wherever it is, she is like so ready to like, say hi to anyone that wants to chat with her or take a photo or whatever. And I think, from that, she's been like a great mentor, like, and I'm saying this because she was 2 years younger than me when we started shooting. So I'm looking at a 12-year-old that is so professional and so attentive to everything happening around her. And I think it really sets the precedent of how you want to like go forward in your life, and also what you expect of famous people.
True.
Because you're like, wow, like if you can do this and you're a child actor and you can be working at this standard, like that is insane.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a reflection on The Rock, because they were on a press tour together, like all over the world, like when they were doing the game plan. They're like, she was even saying, she's like, I would be on a private jet. Like, it's like you're kind of living this wild life. And she was only, I think, 8 or 9 at the time when all that was happening. And when I met him in more recent years, because he was doing the Moana premiere in LA, Madison was like so nice and had invited me to go with her as her +1, which was like insanely cool. And she introduced me to The Rock, like when we were on the red carpet, and like this guy is like just a burst of light, like just like the nicest, coolest, so like awesome to chat with person. I mean, I wasn't chatting with him for very long, but you can just tell like an energy so quickly. Yeah. And he was just really, really cool. And I think, I'm sure, had a positive impact on Madison as well, which is why she's created such a high standard in my head of how famous people should be.
It is always so interesting. There always is.
Well, she even said, she's like, I forget that people know who I am. Like, it's like one of those things, like, you forget. Like, you're not sitting there being like, I'm famous. It's just people recognize you and it happens, and it's just so interesting.
No, it is definitely a crazy thing. And I think some people also, I don't want to say like fall under the illusion, but like also sometimes think that these people aren't real people.
Right.
And I even find myself doing that, whether it be like artists that I look up to or idolize, and you kind of put them on a pedestal. But at the end of the day, there's so many gratifying moments where you like either meet them or have an interaction, and you're like, oh, I feel dumb for thinking that.
Totally.
And not that they're underwhelming or anything, but they're just so normal and down to earth, and it feels just like any other friend.
Totally.
That you're like, oh, that's crazy that maybe society as a whole also like, I don't even know what you would say, like puts them on a different level. Almost
well,
like
also
they're not
I think
human.
like Coachella has been like a big eye opener for me in many ways because when we go backstage, if you get an artist pass at Coachella, it basically means you have access to like the behind the scenes, like outside of the VIP area, which is where all of the like, if you want to call them celebrities, hang out.
These are the sought out after tickets.
Exactly.
Like you can't buy them.
No, you can't buy them. It's like you have to know someone to know someone. It's like this whole scenario. And so whatever. So when Madison and I have gone in more recent years, it's like there's certain people that shock me when I get excited. Like Sam Smith. He's someone that I was like, oh, you're so cool. Like
I've never heard this story. What is this?
Well, it was more just like and those people I'm very like, I won't fangirl. I'll just say, oh, huge fan of your music, like really cool, like whatever. Like I'm not the girl that's like, and also it's kind of known when you're back there, like you can't be asking people for photos. That's not really like, it's like dark for a reason. Like no one is like trying to be seen. They're like with their friends, trying to live their life, listen to good music. They want to have fun too. But the amount of famous people you see.
It's a level of respect that you understand that they're having their time. I think it's so sweet to say like, oh, I love your stuff, love what you're doing. But there always is a line.
There was a time when like Kendall Jenner was like running and like Braxton like ran into me and like turned around and was just like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. But I like, it's just one of those like weird things. Like, I don't know. Like I've seen like Gigi and like Hailey Bieber, like they're always just like there and you're like, damn, these girls are more beautiful in life.
Yeah,
you would
that's
not
a
imagine.
confronting thing.
It's very confronting how beautiful these people are in real life. Like you would not think so. And then you're like, holy hot damn, stunning. Stunning. Like, it's kind of crazy. But I think that's been like my real taste of celebrity in more recent years, just like being around like Coachella vibes. And
I also think sometimes too, the more that you get to have these experiences, like I know specifically back at New York Fashion Week when we were going, there is like an interesting like illusion that...
Well, I will say the fashion world has been my least favorite experience in terms of how celebrities have treated me. Which is interesting.
Really?
Like,
was it more the people not... It wasn't necessarily the talent. It was more the people surrounding that.
Yeah, it's more like... So in the music world, I think there's a real, like, laissez-faire attitude, which I really like. Like, people are very, like, chill. It's like, even, like, the Justin Biebers of the world. Like, they're honestly very chill. Like, no one is, like... They're chill humans, whatever. The fashion world takes itself so seriously...
I would argue that it's not the actual people, though. It's not the models. It's not the actual talent. It's like the people, that's what I'm saying. And stuff surrounding.
The industry takes itself so seriously.
Yeah. I agree. I've always felt so out of place at fashion
So out
stuff.
of place. I mean, I'm also like 5'1" on a good day and like a curvy girl. Like I'm just like not... I am not the classic, like, fashion person. Yeah. And, like, even at, like, New York Fashion Week, I have felt, like, very isolated and very, like, I do not need to be here.
Well, I remember a specific time. So this must have been, I guess, back in February. I had brought my intern along for the time, and this was, like, kind of our first project working on together. Yeah. And we kind of just met. I had just like kind of taken her on and I was like, hey, we're going to just like dive into the deep end. We're doing New York Fashion Week together. And she was so excited. And Jess is amazing. So huge shout out to you, Jess. If you're listening, which she was anti-potty talk at first. So here we are, Jessica. No, and at first I remember being like, okay, I know this sounds really crazy, but we're going to do New York Fashion Week. But I also want to warn you, it's not going to be what you expect it is. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, in what way? And it's not that it's not
just
amazing.
Like setting the precedent.
No, exactly. I want to set the expectations. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not that it's not amazing. I remember my first fashion week, I was like, yo, I grew up like reading magazines and dreaming of this. Even though I was never like in the fashion world. New York Fashion Week is New York Fashion Week.
You think that's what you want to be a part of.
Yeah. So I remember obviously having experience prior being like, okay, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a really cool time. It'll be fun to go to see the shows, but it's also not what you imagine it's going to be.
Yeah.
Realistically, these shows are 10 minutes long. They look like they're dragged out because you see models posting about them for like weeks on Instagram. And then
it happens so fast.
Yeah, and then all these parties, which sound amazing in theory. Like, for example,
it's like the who's who of New York. Like, if you're not on the list, you're kind of a loser.
Yeah.
But like, it's like crazy. Yeah.
I remember we were fortunate enough to go to this one industry makeup party that basically has a bunch of models on their roster that are the faces of their campaigns. And so the list was crazy of like, I guess they were the hosts of the party technically. So it was Gigi Hadid's party and Adriana Lima's, which like two huge supermodels, obviously amazing. We love them. So we were like getting excited, obviously, but also in the same sense, I was trying to talk to Jessica and be like, okay, like this is going to be a fun time, but you're also going to understand how half of this is faked for Instagram or for press. And not that it's that the people are fake, but just the experience overall. So, for example, we all go. So there was maybe, like 5 of us that were going. And we're at this super swanky New York hotel.
I asked the photo booth girl.
That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah, I went to the photo booth, and I was with my boyfriend at the time, and we waited in line. Like, we were, like, super patient, and I just saw that there was a cool photographer, like, shooting people. So I was like, oh, like, babe, like, why don't we wait and get, like, a cute couple photo, like, at this party? And then when I got to the front of the line, after they had, like, shot all the other girls.
You waited in line for, like, 45 minutes.
Yeah, like, I was committed. I was like, I want to get a cool photo at this event. And it was really dark in the club, so I was like, oh, I don't want to, like, take my own photos, like, whatever. So I waited, and then I peeked over to, like, because they didn't, like, say, like, next, like, they didn't, like, call, you know, like, normally you'd think,
they
like,
weren't welcoming you in.
No, they weren't welcoming me into, like, where they were doing this photo booth, so I kind of, like, lean over, and then she, like, one of the girls, like, spots me, like an industry rep, I have no idea who it was, but she was like, oh, we're actually only shooting the models right now. And I was like...
And turned you away and shooed you off.
Yeah, and turned me away. And I have never felt more like I shouldn't have been somewhere in my life. Like, I was never more mortified or like, oh, I'm so embarrassed that I thought I deserved to have my photo taken. Like, it was just so, like, such an ego, like, fail, I guess, in some ways. But also at the same time, it made me think... No, like, that's on her. Like, that is, like, so rude. You should not be treating someone like that.
Like they're lesser than. No, exactly.
Like, you're not 6 feet tall and a glamazon, so you must go. And it's just... That's what makes me hate the fashion industry.
Well, I think we've had the blessing of, you know, growing up in the Toronto community, and nothing here is really ever like that. We think
we're great. Overweight and living our best lives. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have the standard of, like, I have to be taller, I have to be skinnier. Like, no one is shoving that into my head. So it was really a wake-up call to be, like, in New York at this, like, glam party and have people say, no, you're not.
We're not shooting you.
We're not shooting you.
Yeah.
And it's like... Oh, sick. Okay.
So while this is happening, I knew Tori was online. I didn't understand that she had just gotten turned down after waiting for so long. So Didn't
I come over and I was like, really? Like, I was hurt. I wanted to cry. Like, I was, like, really hurt.
So as this is happening, I was talking to Jessica and maybe a few other people, and I was kind of chatting. I'm like, yeah, this is, like, a cool time. It's fun. But there was a roped off section for basically the models and all the cool people, and then the other guests, which basically was, like, us. And it was literally, like, segregated like that, which was, like, crazy to
even
weirder.
Right.
But then I was talking to Jess. I was like, see, this is what I mean. Like, yeah, we can post on Instagram right now and be like, yeah, we're at Gigi's party, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, she's not true.
To us.
We're not friends with her.
Yeah.
Like, check yourself. So, I mean, obviously we were there for work and it was still a fine time. But then you see, and you also understand, and I was like, and Gigi also, like, this is a work obligation for her as well. She's getting paid XYZ amount of dollars from this brand to come here, to host it for an hour.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I bet you once 10 o'clock hits, she's going to leave. And it was literally on the dot. 10 o'clock.
She goes out the back door.
She gets escorted right out. Because the thing is, realistically, it's Fashion Week. She's got a lot of other stuff to do. This was just a work obligation. She's not hosting a fun party. Like, it's a work thing.
It's just marketed so differently than what it's like to actually be in the party.
But then it's also crazy to understand how people are skewing it, because I see other people that were there that night and they're posting, oh my God, with Gigi at her party, like at this New York, and not that it's not true, but it's just such a specific angle that you don't understand really the backstory of it.
Totally.
And even Jess was like, wow, this is so crazy. Like, this is what you were saying. It's kind of all this like fake illusion and it's fun to see, but it's just not real life. It's not. It's interesting.
It's fun to see.
It's fun to do for
a
moment.
Not like to. It's fun to see, and it's an insane thing that we've been able to have that experience.
Yeah, and we're lucky that we got to. But
at the same time, like, not if it's in, like, not if the trade-off is someone treating you like shit.
And that's the thing, and I think it's important to talk about, because there's people that I know, whether they want to be in the fashion world or like get into that, be like, wow, that is like everything. That is the peak, going to these parties and doing this. And it's like, once you actually experience it, you realize that that's not everything.
No.
That that's not the fun part.
But
the fun part is when
age-old thing. Like, remember, like, when The Hills and, like, all this city, like, all the shows, like, Lauren Conrad was on. And I even remember seeing back then, like, even just watching reality TV, which was, like, not real reality TV, and thinking, when Lauren and Whitney were, like, in New York and doing Fashion Week, and, like, just people were, like, so rude to them.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was, like, heightened reality and, like, not real. And
but you experienced it firsthand.
But then I fully have experienced it now, and I'm like, no, that is legit. Like, people are, like, literally the Miranda Priestley, but in real
you
life.
Don't think it actually
Devil
happened.
Wears Prada.
And like I said, I think we're so used to being in our own bubble of, like, this, like, stereotypically, like, nice Canadian, like, inclusive environment. And that's what we're so used to, that it was shocking. So as this is happening, so Gigi Gigi leaves, we're kind of giggling like, oh, this is just so funny. It really is just all, not a game, but it is just all work things. And anyways, so we're standing there chatting, and then Tori stomps on over with Adam, and she goes, we're leaving. That's it. You will not believe what just happened. So we like literally go out in a kind of a huff, and we ended up having the best night ever because we ended up going back to my hotel room. We ordered a bunch of room service, we're giggling all night and had the best time.
But that's what I need.
But that's what I'm saying. It's the people that you surround yourself with that make those experiences fun. What they are and make them fun. And the best part of that entire day was not going to Gigi Hadid's party.
No.
It was going and ordering room service and giggling all night together. Exactly.
I think we chatted about that, though. It's like you don't know where your priorities lie until you're exposed to it, and then you say, oh, that is not what makes me happy.
Yeah. And I think we were even chatting about this the other day. It's a privilege to be able to be like, we're so lucky to experience those things, and then recognize that it's not where the happiness lies. That's not where success lies.
Because then you're not chasing things that are not going to actually fulfill you.
Yeah.
I think that's also why, like, I continue to put so much pressure and investment and in time in my relationships, because that to me is like the value of my life.
Oh,
like,
totally.
That's what I love in my life. It's not the party that this girl says I'm not pretty enough to be taken to shoot a photo of.
And also, for clarity, that is not Gigi's fault at all. It was totally work.
No.
She would just happen to be the name
I don't
attached
even know
to it.
who that woman was. Yeah. She might have she might have been working the party. I don't even know like what the relation she was to that event. It's so true, though. Wow. It's not exclusive to just that, though, because the next day we were sitting, and we were there with a lovely brand, and this brand was the key makeup for the show. So me and Tori were lucky enough to have front row seats. And having front row seats at New York Fashion Week is crazy. Unheard of,
So we were super excited. We knew we had front row for the specific show. And we go to sit down, and we literally had our tickets that said those seats.
Yeah.
And this woman comes up to us, and she goes, are you guys buyers? And we're like, no, we're with this brand. We're from Toronto. We're the Canadian group. And they go, oh, you're not supposed to be sitting here. And we're like, oh, well, we do have like our tickets. Like our rep actually just brought us here.
Yeah.
And she starts kind of panicking, and it's the whole like panic of the fashion world. She like has a headset, and she's like, "Oh,
it's all just like
so-and-so coming in." And then anyway, so she kind of starts being in a panic, and like we don't want to cause a scene. Like at the end of the day, we truly don't care if we're sitting front row or second row or whatever. So she's like, "I have to pull you guys and push you here." And like,
I think she moved us to the fourth row, and I thought, "Ma'am."
And the thing is, realistically, we did have those seats. We could have fought for them and sat there or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're like,
no, but we're not going to like cause the huff. But I also just think it goes back to the whole like power trip of the fashion. Yeah. Like everyone just wants to be in control.
Yeah. So we're like, yeah, sure, it's fine. You can give these seats to so and so. And anyways, but again, the whole idea that it's
I think that's why I have solidified my love more for the music industry, because every music industry experience I've had has been amazing.
I would actually agree. And it's so true. Even the people behind the labels, I have never met more generous, chill,
like fun,
and can enjoy themselves.
They can enjoy themselves. Yeah. They don't take it so seriously. Like,
it's
and
work
it's
hard,
actually
play hard.
about the music, and it's actually about the art. Whereas I see the fashion world more as it's all about the illusion. Yeah. Like what you were saying. It's all about what is this going to look like to the outside world. Whereas like
versus musicians are like anymore.
Musicians are like, I'm with my close-knit fans in this arena or in this like venue, and we're just gonna like make a special night. And I think there's something really like the approach is so much more appreciated by me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Wow.
It's crazy. It is, again though, I feel like so lucky to realize that that's not everything, because when I was like 12 years old, and again watching the Gossip Girls of the world and watching those shows, and
I think it really influences.
Yeah. And then you just get there and you do it all. And again, so lucky to have been able to say that we've done it, but you do it and you're like, oh, I don't necessarily need that. That's not.
No. Yeah.
I don't know.
I get it.
So fun though. I mean, would love to kind of see the fashion world change in a sense where it's more. And again, this isn't speaking about the models, because actually all of the models that I would say really we have interacted with have been lovely and so sweet and great. It's just more, I guess like maybe more the actual industry and the people around it.
The way it's built, like the way that it functions within itself is so...
Yeah, and I don't know if it just needs to like modernize itself and get with the times, or if it's just people that have been in this industry for so long, so they have a power trip. I don't know.
There is a traditionalness to fashion, like something very set in
And I think realistically, it's kind of... I'm sure scary for a lot of these big magazines or big fashion players in the game when they see influencers with quotations coming and getting more views or more interactions. And then you see these girls who oftentimes, again, are looked very down upon from the traditional world.
Yeah.
But they're realistically just scared that these people coming in are going to take their jobs because
it's so true.
they're getting more clicks than their magazine or than
Yeah.
So it's all a game. I think at the end of the day, it's all numbers.
You could definitely be right. Like, it's them living in fear, which plays into kind of their, like, intensity and this, like, constant
and
need
their
to...
hate for that. Like, and again, we're generalizing. This isn't everyone, but
no, definitely.
It's very fascinating. It's something that I definitely would love to, like, have more insight on and, like, understand more. But
I agree.
It feels like such a different world from
what we
do.
It really, really does. Well, it's roses and thorns time.
Well, this was Tori's episode, but I feel like we got a little off track with that. But
yeah, we have other Tori stories, but maybe we'll dive into them in the final episode.
Yeah. Anyway, so some roses from today. A rose would definitely be that you chatted for the first, like, 30 minutes of this podcast.
Oh, love that.
I just needed to, like, we film these in the morning, and I'm a slow riser in the morning. So I really appreciated you.
Thank you so much.
And honestly, your story was actually really interesting. Like, I feel like I learned so many things that I didn't know about that.
Cool.
Another rose is that we've got the Raptors game tonight, and
Go Raps!
I hope we win this one. I've been getting so into it. I'm such a bandwagon fan, but it's just been so unifying as, like, a community in Toronto to be a part of. A thorn is that... I don't think I have a thorn.
No thorn
today.
Like,
it's just good today.
Good.
I'll say one, though. I have to say one. A thorn would be, I had a water by my bed last night.
Did it spill?
And in the middle of the night, I was, like, dehydrated. I'm so, like, allergy-y right now and stuffed up. So I, like, go to swig and take some water. And I somehow, like, in my half-asleep state, like, spilled it all over my bed and on my pillow. And I was just like, and just put my head back down on the pillow. But
that's funny.
That was a time. And then something I'm looking forward to, we actually have a little BFF pamper day. We've got some pedicures coming up tonight to kind of celebrate. This was... When we're recording this, we launched Poddy Talk this week, so it's been really fun to see the reactions, and we're gonna go celebrate and have a little girls' day. Yeah. What about you?
A rose would be that the weather in Toronto is finally nice. I wore, like, this cute dress yesterday, and everything went really well for me. Then today, another rose was that when I was driving here to get to Jaclyn's, I had my windows down and I had my shades on and I was feeling really good. And this really good looking guy on the street did, like, a double take into my car.
You're like, Mama still got it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, like, this is just such unwanted, amazing attention. And then a thorn would be that it's, like, really hot in my apartment. I don't know if I mentioned this is
your air conditioning is
still not working. My air conditioning is not working. So Adam and I woke up this morning and it was, like, no joke, 29 degrees in my condo. So it's a lot. And then a rose bud. I leave for Chicago tomorrow morning, so that'll be great.
Sounds amazing. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This was honestly so fun to film.
Yes! Thank you for tuning in to episode 8 of Poddy Talk, the podcast
where we shit talk ourselves. I'm Tor.
And I'm Jack.
Just kidding, we got you. We'll see you guys next episode. Bye.